Welcome to episode 118 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg. My co-host, Warren Sklar, is off this week, but I guess I could have had anybody else better to step in as my guest co-host is Mr. Guy Serle from the MyMac.com podcast.
Oh, me? I thought you were talking about someone else. Yeah, hey, great to be here, Dave. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. And I'm also very, very pleased to have as a new guest, Mr. Brett Terpstra from BrettTerpstra.com and all the other fun things about developing. How you doing, Brett?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. And the podcast, of course, as well. And you'll tell us all about that as well. Systematic and
Overtired. Yeah.
Overtired. Yeah, you do that with Christina Warren. That's a great show too. And
I like that name.
Yeah. That's a great name. Those two great shows you got there, and we'll talk about that in just a minute here. But today we got some stuff we're going to talk about. Kind of a spin of what's going on in the developers world. And I know, Brett, you're more of a Mac user, and a Mac developer, but we'll definitely get some good info today. Some news to talk about, and some topics as well, and some tips and all the other fun stuff. So. First off, though, because you're a new guest, Brett, I'd like to find out more about you, and you want to tell our listeners what makes you tick, or what's going on. What do you do as far as Mac and iOS? And I know it's more Mac, but I like.
It's a very broad question. What makes me tick?
What makes you tick with in the Apple world? I guess I should say that.
Yeah, well, I started blogging about Apple back in early 2000s for the unofficial Apple weblog. Right. And kind of that began my journey, and all the way forward to today, where I develop 2 Mac apps and no iOS apps, although we do have an iOS version of NB Ultra in the works.
Okay.
But yeah, and I spent a lot of time writing mostly about super nerdy stuff for the Mac.
That's what we're here for. Be nerds.
Yeah. and podcasting with nerds. And yeah, I'm a nerd. That's what makes me tick, is nerdery.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm right up there with you. Up there with you. And you said that, and I always ask what iOS devices you had. You said you have an iPad, Apple Watch, iPhone, and
all a couple versions behind.
Okay.
But I have 2 iPads and an iPhone 10 and a Series 3 Apple Watch.
It's okay. I think
I'm behind.
Nah, it's okay.
I don't make that much money as a nerd.
I hear you. So, what do you think? What do you use your Apple Watch for as much? Do you wear it all the time, or how do you?
Oh yeah. Tracks my workouts. It's constantly used as a timer. I use Siri on it to control music all the time. Okay. It's always on. Like, I check the weather. I use the Siri watch face, which I find is kind of brilliant. She's going crazy right now because I keep saying her name.
Because you keep saying her name.
What is?
Don't tease her. Don't tease her.
What does Merlin call it? Widget or whatever. Yeah, but no, the Siri watch face. God, I keep doing it. It's brilliant though, because it always basically just puts the information I need up front, and so I don't have to spend time flipping through apps and everything.
Can I ask something real quick?
Of course.
Have either of you noticed that when when S Lady first came out, she was as close to useless as any voice assistant could possibly be, and for some reason just over the last year, because S Lady's been around for quite some time, but just over the last year, it has gotten so much better than what it used to be.
Well, the market has also gotten really saturated. The competition, even Microsoft Cortana was Siri for a little while. The competition got fierce. Yeah. Machine learning picked up. The AI behind all of it has improved drastically since it came out. But yeah, in the last year, it does seem like everything's actually starting to work.
Crazy.
And sure enough, Microsoft is going to pretty much abandon Cortana. So, it continues.
There's a Halo reference there somewhere.
Yeah, and again, you're primarily a Mac developer, and you had mentioned that you as well as, of course, you have a developer's account, and you have this Apple Silicon machine. Have you been doing some developing on it, or?
I'm pretty sworn to secrecy on it, but yeah, I've been mostly using it I'm trying to get silicone ready versions of my apps out the door in time.
Okay.
Not that either of them are going to make full use of the platform. I mean, my main commercial app right now is a Markdown previewer that will run fine for years using Rosetta. It's going to be okay. I just really wanted to get my hands on one and just start playing with it. So.
Sure. And
you're about to be attacked.
Yeah, it's your cat's coming.
He's coming for me.
And do you? So will that app? Will it be available on iOS at some point? Will you
Marked will probably never be available for iOS, but NB Ultra, which is the note-taking app that Fletcher Penny and I are working on to replace NB Alt. That one, we already have an iOS version of it, and we may streamline development and make something that's truly cross-platform.
Great.
Do you think that it's going to be much easier now that both iOS and the Mac OS will be sharing the same hardware?
Yeah, having the same processor removes a lot of complications of having truly cross-platform code.
Yeah.
The operating systems don't really have parity, though. I could make an iOS app that you could use on a Mac, but I like making apps that make use of Mac OS. And right now, the way things are, you lose the I think it was not Daniel Jalcott, maybe Michael Sy. No, Brent Simmons talked about the Mac acidness of a program, and like a truly Mac native application that makes use of all of the operating system's features. You can't make cross-platform portable. And so that's always kind of stuck with me. It's easy to make an app that kind of uses both, but you still have to make two apps if you want to make the most of each operating system.
Yeah, something gets lost in the translation.
Yeah. Like copy paste. I'm so annoyed with news.
It's right. And your iPhone, obviously daily driver, you're always using that for day-to-day stuff. Anything stands out that really you like?
Well, let's see. I like my Deadpool screensaver.
Okay.
No, I've really liked having my calendar widget with iOS 14 in my home screen, but that's about the only widget I've really used. Yeah, I have shortcuts on my Today screen, and I'm sorry about the cat. Is this okay? He really wants to be right
fine.
Here.
It's audio podcast. It's fine.
But yeah, like I use apps like Deliveries that have been around forever. Spark email.
Spark's great.
Still use
I haven't tried Spark.
Oh, I really like Spark. Spark. I use MailMate on the Mac, which is an ugly, nerdy email application. It's not ugly. It's not nearly as pretty as something like AirMail would be. But all of the features that it kind of lets me hack together, they work really well with the way I use Spark. So Spark is the best choice for me on iOS. But yeah, I mean, most of what I use my iPhone for is all like I use Twitter's Twitter app. I use Slack app, Facebook's Facebook app.
Yeah, just like
Discord's
most of us.
Discord app.
Yeah, we're mobile. We want to have mobility access to it. So, and do you use you said you have a few versions back on your iPad. Anything you do with your iPad?
I want to start making more use of my iPad. Yeah. I'm selling my Apple Pencil to my mom.
Oh, okay.
Because I bought it.
Do you need the money that badly? Is that what's going on here?
I felt bad. Like I thought I would use it more.
Yeah.
But even now with Scribble, my handwriting is so atrocious that even if it did recognize it, I'd be embarrassed to have that. I don't even remember how to use pens and pencils anymore. So it was kind of a waste of money.
You just didn't want your iPad to judge you anymore on your handwriting.
That's right. Yeah.
I know where you're coming
is
from.
Bad.
It's like people
I
complaining.
refuse to operate.
It's like people complaining that S Lady doesn't work with their accent. I have that, but for handwriting. No, but I want to use my iPad more. And there was a while I was doing a lot of writing using my iPad.
Okay.
But then I got a new MacBook Pro, and I just kind of
back to the Mac.
I don't love I have the older smart keyboard cover.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not a great keyboard for working on.
Yeah. The Magic Keyboard, which I've done reviews for, it's a vast improvement, but it's pricey.
I've gotten really.
I just picked up the Bridge keyboard that I'm using with my
I have one
iPad Pro. I had one for my 3rd gen iPad, and I hated it. It died within like 4 months after I got it, and wasn't that and Bluetooth connectivity wasn't that great to begin with. But so far, the one that I'm using with the 2018 iPad Pro has been terrific, brilliant.
Here's the thing: is I started using mechanical keyboards on my Mac, and I've gotten so used to typing on a mechanical that if I'm going to actually make use of an iPad, I'm going to have to get a Bluetooth mechanical keyboard for it. And I do have a Matthias that I've kind of used with it, the Matthias Quiet Pro Bluetooth. Mm-hmm. That works okay, but it's bigger than the iPad and kind of defeats the portability of the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to definitely have a link to all of your work on your website, and definitely to find out more about you. And I welcome you to the show, and we're going to have a lot of fun here talking about all kinds of stuff, and yeah, we're all geeks here too, so you're not alone here. So
it's great to be here.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the news of the week. Some stories that caught my eye. This first story is on Apple Insider. iOS 14.2 beta code hints that there may not be earpods with the iPhone 12. Code strings that were uncovered in the latest iOS 14.2 beta release suggests that Apple does not intend to include a free set of earpods with the iPhone 12 purchases. And I'm not surprised about this at all. And they may not even include the power adapter either, because they already did that with the Apple Watch Series 6, which I have.
They are going to include the phone.
The phone will be included, yeah.
Okay, all right, just
checking. And probably the lightning cable too, just like they did with the Apple Watch. They included.
If they really wanted to go green, though, they would leave the phone out.
That's right.
Yeah, they just send you a recyclable box for like $1,600.
Made in California.
Just keep using your old phone. Well, here's a box.
Let's face it. I can probably go into my closet to my right here and open up one of my bins. I probably have like a bin full of the earpods that I haven't for all the years that every year I upgrade my iPhone. So yeah. So I could see their point. I mean,
well, if they do that, does that mean they also won't include that little? Well, assuming that they stick with Lightning, the Lightning to TS or TRS adapter.
They may not even include that. No, I bet you'd have to buy it.
If they don't include the earpods, there wouldn't be much point in including that either.
Yeah, exactly. So, because the earpods, the ones that were in the last models, was an actual Lightning earpods. It didn't have a 3.5 inch plug.
Oh, okay. Because I have an iPhone SE, and that came with the adapter.
Oh, so it had the regular ones with the 3.5 inch, and then you had to use the adapter. Yeah, because the
no. I mean, it had the regular.
It came with the adapter as well as it came with the AirPods with the Lightning on it.
Yes.
Okay. So, just of course, rumors as always that they're seeing this, but if it's in code, you almost kind of have to believe it. So, but it is what it is. I thought interesting to note that, like I said, the AC adapter is probably not going to be included with it either. So, hey, they started with the Apple Watch. Why not move on to the iPhone as well for the same thing to happen? So, next story, Apple TV is actually reportedly coming to the Xbox, and likely in time for the launch on November 10th. Hey, my birthday!
Happy birthday!
Yeah, coming up here. Apple TV
we won't
app.
Remember, so we're saying. Yeah.
The Apple TV app is coming to the Xbox, according to the Windows Central. This is on Mac Rumors. which tweeted that it can confirm the news. So I'm really seeing Apple TV. The Apple TV app Apple is really just doing a smart thing, and they're just putting it everywhere. I mean, you're finding it on not only Apple TV, but you're finding it on all of the other many of the other platforms, including smart TVs and everywhere else. I mean, they really want to get their Apple TV Plus out there. Is really, I think, what the goal is. So this is not surprising that this is happening at all. I don't know how much you watch TV, Brett, as far as
all the time.
You do? Okay. Are you have an Apple TV? I forgot to ask you that.
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, I have a.
What'd you think of this?
4? I think it's great. I think the only way Apple will ever be able to maintain a content platform like that is if it is everywhere. If they tie it as closely as most of their apps are tied to their hardware, I don't think it would ever get enough adoption to justify the cost of producing their own series and everything.
Right.
Are they on Roku? Yeah. Can you get Apple TV on Roku?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about Amazon Fire?
That one I don't
know.
So.
But I mean, basically, isn't the Roku basically Android Lite? Isn't that like an offshoot of Android?
I honestly don't know.
Kind of, sort of, because Android. We're going to be talking about the Chromecast here in a topic here coming up. Because
I see that the death of the Apple TV as a streaming box. I can't see any reason at this point for Apple to update it to 4K or to anything else. Let somebody. I mean, these TVs now, the smart TVs, have all of the hardware to do all the encoding. So why even bother? And this is probably worse news for Roku, which is kind of a one-trick pony other than their content delivery system. Yeah. And others, like I can't see the Amazon Fire Stick or the Fire whatever's lasting as a streaming box for another 2 years. I just don't see it happening.
See, with the Fire Stick, it's like $30 and you get a pretty decent app ecosystem out of it. Like at a couple $100, the Apple TV is a little more of a buying decision, and Amazon will let you spread your $30 out over 6 months and pay like $3 a month with no interest. I think they can survive, assuming they're not losing money on that. But yeah, I agree. There's the future of the Apple TV seems
virtual.
It's in question.
It is.
I personally, I love my Apple TV. I don't want it to go away. I wouldn't want to switch to like built-in smart TV.
I don't like the smart TVs.
At this point, the only thing that it has that's not available through the other app on all the other smart TVs is Arcade. Everything else is done right through the Apple TV Plus apps.
Yeah,
Arcade's the only bit that's left. That's unique.
The system-wide search of everything except for Netflix. There's a lot to being able to ask S-Lady to just find a show across all of the apps. Like that's the kind of thing that ties it together as an ecosystem. And it sucks that Netflix has not allowed the deep linking that everything else has, but still, if I want to find a movie and I have 5 different streaming services to look through, it's really nice to just search for it in one place and have it come up.
Yeah, no,
so I would say S-Lady is a selling feature of the Apple TV.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
they just got to fix the remote, and we've talked about that before. I have the Function 101 remote that is awesome, but that doesn't have the S-Lady built into it. My favorite thing is being able to say, "What did she just say?" Exactly.
And have it rewind 30 seconds and turn on subtitles for 30 seconds to tell me what a character just said. It's perfect. I love that. I use it all the time.
That's what she just said. So let's go and move on to the next story. Apple acquired podcast app Scout FM earlier this year, and now it's shut down. I know you guys talked about this on my Mac.com podcast. Yeah. It's the website Scout FM is now defunct, but it was available on iPhones, Android devices, and Amazon smart speakers. But and Scout FM generated podcast stations covering various topics similar to like a radio station, but for a podcast experience. of course, Apple's being very vague of what they've done with it. They did purchase it, and Apple seems to be planning to do an audio spinoff of some of its original television movie content, and this could be like a platform that they can incorporate in the podcast app and other places.
Guy, I think that's what they're going to end up doing. I don't think it's going to exist as like a separate app. They'll just incorporate the technology.
Yeah, that's what I think they've done that many times with different companies they've bought. Excuse
me.
What's that?
Sherlock.
They Sherlocked it. And Brett, I know I assume you're a podcast listener, and this is probably something
you would think.
I would hope so. Maybe. We're all podcasters here, so we might be listening to a few as well. But
I listen to a couple like a month. I don't do good at listening to podcasts.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can't, if they're on in the background, they're too distracting to work to, and I don't commute anywhere. Yeah. And I rarely set aside an hour to just listen to a podcast. So I'm a horrible podcast listener.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I have, and unfortunately, my commute I say unfortunately, it's actually great that my commute to work when I have to go into the office is only like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, which is amazing here in the DC area. But 20, 25 minutes is not even enough time to listen to like half or a third nowadays of the My Mac podcast, especially with the after show, which most people just skip to anyway. So, yeah.
So then the last story I had was, which I figured it already was, the iPod Nano is now quote unquote obsolete. The last iPod Nano model was marked as vintage as Apple, meaning it's no longer possible to get it repaired. This was the model, I guess, as far as back in 2015 that had all those different colors. It was that little small one.
The screenless one.
Yeah, I can't imagine that the cost of getting a repair last year would have been
worth it.
Worth it, yeah. I mean, it's
like none of those have Apple Care anymore, so you'd be paying.
I'm sorry, that'll be $500.
I mean, they hadn't even updated the iPod Touch, which had an A10 Fusion chip, which has the A10 Fusion chip.
I thought they did that last year.
2019 they did, which was surprise refresh. Yeah, so I think the days are numbered for any iPods at this point, of the way things are. That's the last one that's left is iPod Touch. So, but anybody has that iPod Nano, it's got to go into your museum collection if you still have it.
Yeah, just that drawer that you keep all those extra like charging cables and power bricks and everything else for your old phones.
I've got old iPods. Those old iPods, the 30 gig one. So,
what was the biggest storage size of the iPod Nano?
It was probably
64 gigs,
maybe 64 gigs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember
it was expensive too. It was like $300.
I remember my Creative Audio MP3 player that held 256 megabytes of your music.
Yep. And you were like, whoa.
I know, we were all excited.
Pass it around the office and everyone could play DJ with it. Yeah.
It's like with the very first iPod that was FireWire. I mean, from when it first came out. So, I mean, I still have a couple of my old iPods, the 20 gigabyte iPods with the mechanical drives in them, and you'd always hear the click.
Click,
click.
Click wheel, the click wheel white iPods. I had that, and I have very fond memories of it. I still have it around somewhere because I couldn't bring myself to let go of it. I'm going to hold on to it until it's like vintage computer. And then get, thousands of dollars for it.
Well, one thing that iPod touches are still good for, especially because it's still kind of hard to find good webcams. You can use them as webcams.
Oh, with like camo?
Also with
we talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's a gone. It is gone.
I used to use it for Guy's Daily Drive to record that in the car.
Have you guys tried to buy a webcam this year?
It's been very challenging.
I tried to buy one from my brother, who lives down in Florida, and I ended up getting him some. I couldn't even tell you what the name of it was. It was some unpronounceable name, and when I got it, it was $50.
Yep.
And I'm guessing it probably cost about $15 pre-COVID. And it still took like 2 months for it to get to him. And when it arrived, I was like, oh, please work, please work, please work. Because he insisted, my brother loves me. He insisted on paying for it before it arrived. And I was like, don't pay me for this yet, because it may not work. But thank God it did work. But trying to find decent webcams, and let's face it, we're talking about the Logitech series, the 920X and the 930X series. And because everything else, I mean, a lot of it will work. A lot of it doesn't look that great. I mean, this is a 930 that I'm using right now.
Yeah, mine too.
And it's fine. I've like the last couple of Mac to the Futures, I was using my iPhone with either Camo or Epoch, and that looked really good too. So the fact that there are so many other options now, and there's been a lot of creative options done because of the problems of finding some of this stuff.
Right.
But now, fortunately, I think the market has settled down somewhat. So some of the stuff is now finally starting to filter back in, and you're not seeing prices for the Logitech 930 in the $200 range anymore, which is ridiculous because I think I paid $70-$80 for it.
Yeah.
I'm using the Logitech
speech. Sorry.
I'm using the Logitech 1080 Pro Stream, and I've been really impressed with its depth of field. But it took me.
Is that the Brio?
Huh?
Is that the Brio?
No, it just says Logi 1080p Pro Stream.
Oh, okay.
But it is, it's been great. It took me forever to find it and get it shipped, though. It was out of stock literally everywhere.
Everywhere,
It's impossible. Logitech cameras are very hard to find right now. So, RIP to the iPod. Yeah, no. Let's go ahead and
where
move
this
on.
all started?
This is where all this started. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I talk about beta. I always, Brett, you don't know, but my co-host Warren, he lives on the cutting edge and always puts betas on every one of his production devices, his Mac, his iPhone, his iPad, and
his Tesla.
He just says do it, and he has a Tesla too, of course. That's Warren. But so we tend to talk about beta and just give what's new this time around. 14.2 beta 2 just came out this past week, and one of the interesting things is I have a iPhone XR iPhone that I use for beta. See, I'm smart. I have a separate device that I will put beta on. I'm okay with doing it that way because I don't care what happens to this phone. For some reason, beta 1 there was a bug, and I had never seen that before for just the XR, and I couldn't update it. So it would. In fact, I had downloaded it before they pulled it from the developer and the public beta, It was really wonky. I would try to get the passcode. The screen was like halfway up. You couldn't even get to barely could get to the buttons. It was really bad. So they pulled it, and I had to revert this back to 14.0 at the time. And now they released it. And now it's now out available on the XR again. So I know everybody's excited about that. But biggest things they've added with 14.2 is Shazam, which of course that's another company that Apple purchased a while ago, and that is now going to be incorporated into the control center. So you're going to be able to actually get to it and be able to say that. But the most important thing that they did is they got some new emojis. So they're really important those are really important things that we're sweating over. And I have links here from Mac Rumors as far as some of the things that they've introduced, including Ninja and smiling face with tear. They a disguised face. Those are important things here.
So in the show notes, it lists Ninja and Pinata, and I read it as Nina and Pinta, and I thought the next one was going to be Santa Maria.
Yeah.
Only for Columbus Day,
because Columbus Day is coming up here in the United States. So. So that I think that's what it was. So, but those are really the things that stood out. Watch OS 7.1, which I would never put on my watch because there's no going back once you go forward. So, but that's out as well as, of course, Mac OS Big Sur is coming very soon here, and So they really have done some changes with the control center, and that's good because I think control center is important to function on the iPhone these days. So, but we'll continue to see what happens. I think 14.2 is probably going to be out sooner than later. We're at 14.0.1, which was released for fixing bugs. So, but we'll see where that goes. So let's change gears here and let's talk about a topic that I know is near and dear to Brett's heart is text editors. You have an amazing grid and showing of all the, I mean, I can't even believe there's so many, there are these many text editors available for Markdown and other things. What inspired getting this text editors list together that you put together on your website?
Well, it was a few years back, at least 5 years back. Just the wealth of text editors that were being created for iOS, and as someone who blogs a lot about applications for Mac and iOS, people were always asking me what text editor would do this thing for them. So I took it upon myself to crowdsource. It started out as a Google Doc and just had everyone kind of put their favorite text editors on and then check off all the boxes, what it could do, and turn that into, had a Ruby script that would turn that spreadsheet into a HTML table and just put it out there. And for a while, I let the Google Doc remain public and people helped me keep it up. But eventually it just became something I have a Wufoo form that developers can fill out to add new apps to it. And then I go through and clear out, last culling took about 30 text editors out. So what you see now is 30 fewer than it was a year ago.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot here already. I was like, look at this list. Like, holy cow! I didn't realize.
I haven't heard of like 90% of these.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of them are one-trick ponies that, if you just want a 99-cent text editor, it'll probably do the trick for you. But if you have any kind of advanced needs, there's only a few that really stand out. And the headers on the table, you can if you click them, it'll start removing apps that don't have that feature. So you can quickly filter the table down to something that does what you actually need.
I mean, a lot of these are note-taking apps too, like Notability and Drafts and
The only requirement is that they have to work with plain text.
Okay.
They can work with rich text as well, but I don't include any editors that are purely like Pages, like designed for writing rich text.
Okay. Now, is any of these what are any of these apps that you use at all for iOS?
Drafts and OneWriter are my go-to text editor tools. And for pretty much anyone who asks me what I pick out of all of those text editors, Drafts and OneWriter are kind of essential for me. Okay.
And there's just so many others that, like I said, they're just kind of obscure. But a lot of the stuff that you do is for programming. You want to do Markdown language and things like that. And is that
I take all of my notes, all of my writing, everything is done in Markdown. Okay. So for me, that's kind of Markdown editing tools are a requirement. Whereas for a lot of people, I don't know. Does anyone not use Markdown?
Well,
that'd be so weird.
It is your app, right?
Well, no, Marked is my app. Markdown is John Gruber's syntax for writing rich text using plain ASCII text.
Okay.
And everyone should be using it. It's brilliant.
Right now.
They should be.
Immediately.
Yes. Go get it. But yeah, I have a link in the show notes to this great grid, and you can just go and look and see what's going to work out best for you. Guy, did you? Like you said, most of these you hadn't even heard of. I'm kind of like in the same boat with you, but.
Well, the fact that you can look at this list and look at features at the top and go, well, I need to have Dropbox connectivity and I need to be able to use it, HTML email or as a PDF editor or something like that. And you can just click each one of these boxes. And the apps that don't do the things that you want it to do disappear. Yeah. And so it kind of narrows down the number of apps based on feature set. And that is just brilliant. That is really, really good programming.
Hey, thanks.
That's a great web page.
Yeah, this is. So we'll definitely have a link here in the show notes. You can see it. And I said if more of them were free, I would probably download them, just like load them up on one of my beta devices and just try all kinds of them. But I don't get a little expensive.
What's sad is that list got so big and unwieldy that there's really no way to look at it on an iPhone.
Right.
So it's a catalog of iOS apps that you can't really access.
That's not mobile. iOS. That's not mobile ready. So use your Mac to look at this list. So if
it's mobile ready, it's just not mobile friendly.
I had considered like turning the whole thing if I sold enough advertising for it, because honestly, it's one of the highest traffic pages on my website.
Yeah, and I see that in your to-do here that you said that so you're still trying to figure out how to get it to work.
Yeah, well, like I had considered selling ads and actually making a little network of like, because you could take it and not just text editors, you could have best photo editors or best music apps, and you could set up grids for all of them, and I could get people to moderate each section, and I could turn it into a whole network. And I probably could have made enough of a go at it to scrape by, and then be able to afford the development time to make a mobile version, but it didn't interest me that much.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is a pretty amazing list at what you got here as it is. So we appreciate it. I think I'm sure many others out there do as well.
And hey, if anyone's looking at that and they think, hey, why isn't this app on there? There's a form you can fill out and get it added.
There you go. Yeah. So take a look at it, and like I said, you'll find some. You might find a note-taking app or editor that you'll like. So. We appreciate it. So, and then next topic I wanted to talk about a little bit here is I don't know about you guys. iOS 14. I have tend to notice that I've got the 11 Pro Max, which is is a year old, and I have been noticing that the battery has been draining a little quicker than normal, And one of the weird things that came out today was the other day about this. When you go talk to Apple with your Apple Watch and your iPhone, Apple's suggesting that you wipe and restore both of them, which seems to me a little bit extreme. I don't know about you guys, but
a little bit.
This is an actual support article on Apple's.
That's supposed to fix the battery drain?
Yeah, that's what they're saying, because I would link to a story on iPhone hacks, because what was happening is there was missing GPS data and or facing excess battery drain on iPhones or Apple Watch. Apple's just recommending restore your device. I'm like, really? There's an actual link published. It's a new support document with possible solutions, what you could do, but what they're saying is, unpair your watch and back up your back up your iPhone in the in iCloud.
For unrelated reasons, I just did that, and I still have battery drain.
Yeah.
So my phone started like tapping itself, like it would just go berserk and just start opening apps and moving things around, and with nothing touching the screen. So I got it. I sent it in, and they gave me a brand new one. So this is a brand new phone, supposedly.
It's still doing it?
No, it doesn't have that issue anymore, but the battery drains in about, I'm going to say, under regular use, I get maybe 16 hours out of it before it needs a recharge, which is no better than the 3-year-old version I sent them.
Strange.
You're not running that Cyberdyne app, are you?
Oh, is that the problem?
It could be.
And then there was another article that I linked in, and we've talked about this before on some tips on how to improve your iPhone battery life. One of the good things about, and this started actually in iOS 12, they added this, was the actual way of being able to look at the battery life right on the phone. So they have an actual app that you can open up and it takes a look at. It gives you a grid what apps are actually what are actually doing and draining. And apps that are famous for it are like if you're a Facebook user, you know, Facebook app is horrible. I know the Mail app sometimes does take a little percent. Like this picture here is showing that Twitter was taking up about 31% of the activity, and was starting to affect the battery drain. So you kind of look at apps, and then you have to kind of decide, okay, are those apps that important to you? and maybe you delete them. Maybe use a web-based version. And I think that's what a lot of people do with Facebook. They just fed up with the battery life, and they just stop using or stop using Facebook altogether. Well, you got that. You got that too as well.
Reasons beyond battery life. You could just stop using Facebook.
But there are a couple things that I had always recommended, specifically location services. We can go to settings, privacy, and location services, and make sure you turn off the background app refresh. I always turn that off. I just don't find that as a necessary thing. Now, they do talk about things like disabling location services, but you really don't want to do like a whole thing of turning it off. But the good thing now is most app developers are now setting it so you can go in and actually set it to while using the app as opposed to always. There were some app developers that were really greedy and saying, well, let's set it for always. And that in itself, I think, was kind of cruddy. You'd either be never or always. So at least they've got that option to be able to add that. So other good tips too is like I love dark mode. I don't know about you guys. I like the dark mode, and that tends to help battery life a lot because it's not hitting the LED and the LCD that hard. Is that, and low power mode is the other one they suggest, and I don't think I'm not a big fan of that. I tend to not use that. And then one other thing they would suggest too is like placing the iPhone face down, because it's got a face down detection feature, which makes use of the ambient light, so it ensures the display does not light up when you receive a notification. In fact, I should probably face my phone the other way because I have it sitting on my nightstand because I have one of those iHome wireless chargers. It's like a stand on it, so it sits next to the clock. And I've got Twitter telling me when people make notifications, and I wake up in the middle of the night and it's the Twitter notification came up, and somebody's posting something at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, what? Who's posting it? This is the late hour. Unless I'm following somebody from like the UK or something. But
I've got do not disturb turn on after like.
Yeah, I should turn that back on. I always forget to do it. But a lot of good tips in there as far as battery life goes, and I think it's definitely something to take a look at and be aware of. So, changing gears here, I thought another interesting topic, and Google just had a big announcement, and they announced the new Pixel 5 and the new 4a, which is going to have 5G, which is interesting. So they jumped the gun and got ahead of Apple before the iPhone 12 is due to be announced here. So, I saw it interesting to see what Google's adding to their phones. I think it's definitely going to be interesting. The pricing is pretty aggressive too. I mean, the 4A is with 5G connectivity starting at $500, $499. And then the Pixel 5 is adding, of course, a lot of the stuff they're adding Apple has already got on their iPhone. So, but Apple, of course, already went ahead and borrowed things from Google as well by having widgets and having the app library, and so they're all ripping both each other off. But I think two of the interesting things that were announced, this was, I believe, yesterday, was the Google Chromecast, which now includes the Google TV, and it's $49 and has a remote, and it's also got the Android TV OS in it. It's very Apple TV-ish, because as I looked at it and saw some of the demonstrations, and interesting to see. And the other device too was the Google Nest Audio, which is now they're looking to compete even more with the HomePod. That's only $99, so they got some aggressive pricing here with these devices. I'd be interesting to see how the sound is on that speaker. But what do you guys think as far as Google going here with the Chromecast, and like we just talked about earlier about the Apple TV and where that may be going? $49 device. That's pretty cheap.
I would note that while they made the same mistake of having a perfectly symmetrical remote, it looks like you can at least tell at first glance or with a thumb press which way your remote is facing.
This is true, because I'm doing that all the time with the Apple TV remote. Yeah. That's why I've got Function 101. Yeah, that's why I bought that Function 101 remote for $30. And now I can.
Yeah, it's a terrible remote.
It's
not bad. It's not bad on the same level as the hockey puck mouse. But it's damn bad. Close.
That was bad. I think I have one of those in a drawer somewhere here. It was so bad. So
I've never used a Chromecast TV, so I have no idea.
No, really, the only reason I brought it up is because looking at, I haven't either. I have Chromecasts that I had, but the old Chromecasts were generally devices that you could just mirror your device to it and be able to watch. But now this device is the first time ever, and they're only charging $50 for it. That actually includes an OS in it and has the same or similar type interface that Apple TV has, and being able to go to the Google Assistant and ask for things just like we asked S Lady. So that's why I think for $50, maybe we got to question what Apple's thought is with Apple TV. Isn't going to be around. Because you got Google like this doing this. So
because I will say Google Assistant is really good.
It is good. I agree. Yeah, I've got a couple Google devices here. I've got a Google Home the little screen. I actually love it because whenever I want to watch something away from my computer, I can just send it. I could stream it to the Google Hub and be able to have that playing on the little screen here while I'm doing something else here on my computer here. So
yeah.
So I don't knock Google for a lot of the things they do. I think what their downfall is, especially with their phones, their marketing. They're just not very good at marketing their products. Not getting out there to the carriers, and they're not very available. And people like, I never heard of that phone before, type of thing, because they just aren't very good at it. But versus where iPhone is today. So it's definitely gonna be interesting. I like to see where the HomePod and the Apple TV go. And this is definitely a step to push Apple to decide, are they going to stay in this market, or are they going to do come up with it? I know they were supposed to come up with a HomePod Mini that's been rumored for a while. I don't know where that's going to be. Again, that's a rumor. So, any other thoughts, Guy, before we move on here?
I have one Google device. It was some cheap ass phone I bought on Wish.com, and I've regretted buying it ever since I did. Could never really get it to work properly, but I don't think that's a reflection of Android more than it is just a poor purchasing decision by me at midnight from Wish.com. It they look like they're great phones. I don't know. I'm not willing to spend $500 to $600 to try a phone that's supposed to be just as good as what I already have. So.
All right, moving on here. I was fortunate enough earlier this year, as many who listen know, I was able to go to CES for the first time back in January before the pandemic hit here. So, because just shortly thereafter, and we weren't doing anything. So it was kind of I was very lucky being able to go. I had a lot of fun and got to hang out with Chuck Joyner and Allison Sheridan and many others. So we had a lot of fun, as well as get to see all the new stuff. So. And I got to interview a number of folks, and one of them was a company called Sketchboard Pro is the website. And by no means am I an artist. I can say that I'll be the first disclaimer here about talking about this. And what they have here is called the Sketchboard Pro. And this they sent me a review unit, and I wanted to kind of give a quick review of it. This is a really nice, well built Sketchboard Pro for people watching on the stream here. This one here that I have is actually holding a 12.9 inch iPad Pro in here, and it does have feet on the back here. And what you do is you actually flip them out, and you can have it in a tilt position and be able to actually draw and be able to go through and draw things. And it holds the Apple Pencil. It does, and I have Procreate on here, and I was actually doing some things with the Apple Pencil and drawing it. It is really comfortable, and I guess the biggest complaint, if you actually go to their website, watched the videos, was the fact that artists tend to, when they were doing their work on an iPad, that their hands would start getting numb and not being able to, because they had to actually hold the iPad and not have a place that could be comfortable.
Yeah.
And they really, what they decided to come up with is this really solidly built board. I mean, this thing is. I'm very impressed with how they built this. So, is it obviously a niche device? I don't think too many people, other than probably in the art community, are going to probably want to buy this. But I think it's a really cool way. As you see here, they even put a hole here for the camera. So if I really want to take a picture and I have it in the board, I don't have to take it out. I actually can take a picture with that. I already make fun of people that holding up their iPad. Could you imagine me holding this thing up like this? I'm holding it up here and I'm taking
freeze. I'm taking your picture. You look like one of those old time picture takers where he puts like the cloth over his head and the whole thing.
So check them out. I give a shout out to JJ, who was kind enough to send this to me as a review unit, and I have a link to their website, and the price is not too terribly expensive. It's on pre-order right now. That they've already sold out of a number of them already. It's $79, and it is definitely something to check out if you happen to be an artist and want to do that. So, and then. With that, I've got a couple tips here in here we're going to go over real quick. The Messages app in iOS 14. I mean, there's so many things to talk about iOS 14. And it makes my mind numb because there's just so many things that are so new in iOS 14. And I know a few guys have taken advantage. Of course, in Messages, you use Messages. Some of the things that are now available in Messages, it's really cool. And the biggest thing I really liked was pinning messages to the top of the group. Brett, have you done that in your Messages app already?
Yep. Yeah. Pinned contacts and pinned conversations. Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
so I've got the common conversations, and I went and what's really cool is you go into the conversations, you actually can tap it, go to info, and you actually can go in and change the name and the photo of the conversation, which is really cool, and being able to do that, and then and you also can actually including group messages, you can go to single messages by swiping right and then tapping hold. Allows you to be able to single out messages in that as well. And if you want to reply to a prior message in that group, I think that's cool too. You just tap it and then you can go reply, and it'll highlight just that message in the group. It's how cool is that? Because I mean, everybody's going to still be able to see that message, so it's not going to be private. But at least now you're going to single out that particular message in the group and say, "Hey, this is what I'm replying to."
It helps to provide context to whatever it is.
When you have three or more people all rapid firing and all going their hot takes, and you don't know whose reply is to what. No, threaded responses is really cool. It's. I mean, it's still a lot of. I don't like group chats in general. It's just too much happening at once, and I like Slack where a thread becomes its own kind of conversation. But it's a huge step up from just a barrage of text messages.
But it cuts back on the "you said what about my mother" kind of messages. So people understand. No. I meant it was a completely different conversation.
And that's the thing too is you always had to scroll through your long list of messages, and because I'm sure, as most of us do, have a lot of messages that we just don't delete and they save. And now that you got the one that's important to you, like I have my friend Brian is at the top there when he responds. It just shows a little bubble of when he responds right at the top there, so I don't have to go and look down and look at it. So. A lot of great things that they've added in this, and there's so many other tips with this, what you can do in messages, but I thought those are two of them that stood out. And one last tip I wanted to talk about was the ability to being able to share Apple Watch faces. Brett, you said you have a watch face. Yet. Yeah, this is a really cool thing, and it's a fun addition that they added. This is in Watch OS 7. And so you can impress your friends with your creations. As I did have a link in the show notes from Mac Rumors, like they said that. And the way you do it is if you go on your Apple Watch, you swipe to the face you want to share. You press and hold the face until the edit and share buttons appear. Tap share button, and it looks like a square. The normal share icon we're used to, the square with the arrow up. You tap add a contact, and then of course you have to speak it to get it in there, and you can send it over to that person, and they'll have your watch face and be able to download it right to the watch. I mean, I think that's just so cool. And then you go into the iPhone, and you can go in there as well and be able to share it. So, did you guys do a lot of watch faces? Guy, you said you don't. Did you change your Apple Watch?
I'd heard about that feature, but for the most part, I mean, my watch face is basically you've got time, then you've got in each corner some different little function that I use, like battery, what my battery life is that's left, what the current temperature is, things along those lines. And I know that there's a plethora of other watch faces out there. One thing that I heard someone talking about on some show, why Apple doesn't allow other people to sell watch faces, that this was something that I guess was thought would be a huge market for someone. I don't know. I love my Apple Watch, but I don't know if I would be interested in most watch faces beyond the ones that are just normally supplied.
Yeah, that's what I am. I use I keep the chronograph and the watch hands. That's the one I've been using for years. So I really haven't changed. So, Brett, any watch faces do you use?
Like I said, the S Lady watch face is all I need. And if that one weren't stock, I would pay for it. Just it does such a great job of surfacing the information that I need at any given time. I can just look at my watch and there it is. Right now, it wants me to start a yoga workout, gives me my resting BPM, and tells me it's time to take a minute to breathe, which are at this time of the evening. Those are three things that could be happening.
Absolutely.
And like I've got my weather just one scroll away. It's kind of ideal to me. It thinks for me.
Do you have the watch that has cellular connectivity, or is it just paired with your phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I ended up getting that with the watch. I just got that Series 6. If you don't know, Brett, just bought it and did a review of it last week. I did get the one with cellular, but I didn't turn it on only because I didn't want to wait. But I traded in my Series 4 and got a little credit on that. So it's a great watch. I've been very happy with it, and the Series 3 actually is a really good watch too. So then I think you should have no complaints.
That's the one I started with, was the Series 3,
and I had that one, went to the Series 4, and then was smart and did not upgrade to the Series 5 and waited, and then
I still have a water damaged Series 1 if anyone wants it.
How could you have a water? I mean, did you swim in it or?
Took showers. Just took enough showers with enough steam that it eventually stopped working.
I was like, hey, cut that out.
You're supposed to be able to swim in it. I'm very nervous of swimming in the Apple Watch. I don't think I would ever do it. It just especially it's too expensive for me to be worrying about the. Although it does get all the water out once you with the crown, the digital crown, and push it. So it definitely is something great. So, but anything else you guys have that stands out for iOS before we wrap things up?
I think I'm good. I mean, I'm on the beta. The only beta that I'm using in iOS is for the iPad.
Right.
And the thing that drives me crazy about the iPad, two things. Number one, multi-user isn't there. Number two, multitasking, the rules just keep changing on how to do different things at the same time with an iPad. And I really need them to stop doing that. Just come out with one set of rules, keep those rules for a while. Let people get used to them, especially now that you have you can have a full-time pointer icon thing, whatever you want to call it, which I love. The Bridge keyboard I have has a built-in trackpad, so I love that thing. It's so much easier to get around, especially in things like writing apps.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up here then. There was a great show. Appreciate you guys being on the show here. And that's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others, including Spotify. And better yet, just go to our website @intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Brett, thanks again for being here. We hope you enjoyed it, and we surely did. And where can people find you?
You can find me at brettterpstra.com. You'll find all of my projects and things like the text editor comparisons there. And TT Scoff on any social network you type it into. Okay. And then you can find my podcasts. Systematic is at systematicpod.com, and Overtired is at overtiredpod.com.
Can I ask you what is the Overtired podcast? I'd love that name.
Two ADHD pop culture fans with
like
various. It covers mental health, a lot about Taylor Swift, and then super nerdy stuff like building keyboards, and it's Christina Warren. If you're familiar, she's right for Mashable. Now she works at Microsoft. Yeah. She has an encyclopedic knowledge of topics, including Taylor Swift and 90s teen soaps. So if you want to hear a 10-minute screed on Beverly Hills 90210, this is the show for you.
She's your girl.
And I'm the balance. Like, so she goes off on those, and I'm the guy that's like, all right, let's bring it back.
Reel it in. Yeah. Okay, come on.
We have fun.
Nobody cares what Brenda's doing.
We'll have all the links in the show notes to get to find you. Appreciate you being on the show, Brett. Guy, thanks again for guest co-hosting. Where can people find you?
You can find me. You can send me email at Guy, oddly enough, at mymac.com. Much like Brett, you can find me almost everywhere on the various social networks if you look up my name, or Mac Parrot. One that I'm kind of putting out a lot more now is VertShark, because I have the vertshark.com website where all the audios and videos can be found. Of course, I do the My Mac podcast each and every week with Gazmaz over there in the UK, and the Mac to the Future livecast go normally, not this week, but normally on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And lastly, a little bit of insanity, Guy's Daily Drive that I don't do every day, but I am driving, that you can find in YouTube at VertShark in both audio and video versions. If you go to your podcatcher of choice, just look up Guy's Daily Drive. You'll get Guy's Daily Drive. You'll get the Mac to the Future audio version. You'll get the video, the audio video version, which doesn't make any sense, but it does if you listen to it, of the mymac.com podcast. So many things all in one feed because I'm too cheap to break it up to another feed.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Sure.
And thanks to everybody out there listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.